So you may know by now that Scott D'Amore is done with TNA Wrestling. Last night, Anthem Sports and Entertainment, the parent company of TNA Wrestling, announced the firing of the president, Scott D'Amore. This change just comes only weeks after Impact became TNA once again. Officially rebranding to great fanfare, a really positive outlook for the company, great buy rate, great numbers for Hard to Kill, and Scott D'Amore is gone.
So it's not quite clear why. There's not really a lot of reasoning being put out there yet other than an official statement here, but D'Amore is being replaced by Anthem VP of Operations Anthony Cicione, who in prepared statement has said this move is intended to further integrate TNA Wrestling into the entertainment group of Anthem Sports and Entertainment as we work to leverage the resources of the entire company to add more value in areas such as production, distribution, marketing, viewership, customer acquisition, digital revenue streams, ad sales and sponsorships, and digital tech operations, among others. Everyone at Anthem Sports and Entertainment is appreciative and thankful for the years of dedication that Scott D'Amore gave to Anthem and TNA Wrestling. Scott has been part of TNA since 2003, holding many key roles. He played a vital role in the growth of the company and the evolution to its strong industry reputation today, including the 2024 of the TNA Wrestling brand. I personally want to thank Scott for the passion he brought to the business and his personal touch with talent.
TNA Wrestling is in a position to take a big leap forward into its next stage of growth and expansion. Whilst we can create more operational efficiency, the most exciting part is expanding existing revenue streams and developing new ones. Wrestling promotions have evolved from event-driven businesses to global media enterprises. We know that departures of well-respected executives can create uncertainty. We are fully committed to this new business model. We are entering a new stage of growth. These changes bring together more leadership experience to help us elevate our operations. I'm really gutted.
I just hear buzzwords there.
Yeah.
It's just like corporate buzzword. Like over and over again when it's things like, it's just missing the word synergy, although that's probably in there somewhere.
Could be. It's a lot of that. Because the one thing that we, in terms of looking into this story, the general vibe is that they want TNA to be more folded in with Anthem.
Yeah.
At the moment, it feels like it's sort of out on its own. You can make the comparison between WWE and TKO Group Holdings in the sense that TKO, since coming in, have taken more ownership of the company, and Anthem, I guess, maybe seeing that and think they should be doing that with TNA more.
Well, PW Insider have touched on that, reporting that one possible reason for the change being discussed among TNA talents was that Anthem wanted the TNA brand to be more in line with the parent company going forward, and that the brand had been too D'Amore-centric with Scott as the face of the company. The decision was said to have come directly from Anthem owner Len Asper. Numerous sources have also stated that business disagreements contributed to Scott's firing. Fightful have also touched on it.
Yeah, they say there'd been historic issues that may have led to the events of yesterday, saying, quote, when Don Callis was under investigation for harassment, the company stated that they hired an outside HR specialist to help conduct it. Many involved and around the situation said it was actually investigated by someone who would have a conflict of interest as they came from within the company. And in terms of how much that bears on the decision, at this point, we don't know, but Fightful Select were keen to point that out in their report.
Is it that they just want Anthem to be more prominent on the programming?
They used to have the big owls on the turnbuckle pads.
Yeah, I hated it. It'd be like WWE having TKO all over everything. It's like big part of wrestling suspending disbelief. Why can't we just pretend Scott D'Amore's running it? You still own it.
The TNA staff and roster members were informed of the change yesterday. Now it's come to pass through Nick Hausman that within like 90 minutes of notice, everybody was called to two separate town hall meetings on Zoom. The talent and then the staff and the production team. Tommy Dreamer and Gail Kim led the talent meeting and shared the news, which, according to Fightful, did not go down well. Nick Hausman says how that meeting actually went.
So he says it's said to have gotten chaotic after they broke the news that D'Amore was no longer with the company, as many were loyal to him. Kim asked everyone to mute their lines, and we believe some talents were allowed to speak. The all-talent call concluded with Tommy Dreamer telling telling talent that if they were unhappy and wanted to be released from their deals, they could have those discussions with the company privately. One source said that possible releases would likely be based on how important the talent was considered to go to the company. To the company. Jordan Grace, for example, was mentioned as someone the company would be unlikely to let go, considering the buzz she has coming out of WWE's Royal Rumble.
Over the last few hours, we've seen lots of members of the TNA roster speaking online and thanking Scott D'Amore. And it ranges across the board from Josh Alexander sharing the very passionate speech that Scott D'Amore gave after the rebirth of TNA. We also had Leon Slater sharing the photo that he took with Scott D'Amore just after he signed with TNA, saying thank you to Scott. There'll no doubt be more tributes to Scott D'Amore. The general vibe is that everybody was caught off guard by this, and whilst there is something to be said for bringing the company more in line in a business sense, Scott D'Amore did so much good to bring TNA to this point.
Well, this is it, right? He's been with the company in some way, shape, or form, I think, except for a couple of years stretch, for 21 years.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's the guy that brought it, like, clawing its way out of yet another kind of fall. And that was a fall where it was at the point where it was like, is it going to get out of this tailspin? And so he's sort of been at the forefront of that for a long time. I think it's going to take a lot to kind of, I think convince everybody that things are just going to resume as normal and things are going to be right, because D'Amore has been, at the center of it for so long.
The comment there, which is interesting, which comes from the Nick Hausman report, thank you to Nick Hausman for this one, where they say that if people do want to talk about releases, they're conversations they'll have privately, which many might see as a bit of an overreaction. But the one thing that you hear a lot about TNA and previously Impact, and it's also something that I can genuinely attest to, is there's a real family culture there. Like, everybody's pulling together and everybody gets on. At least that's from my perspective of it and the perspective of many other people there. So with the sudden news of Scott D'Amore going, I can imagine there would be a lot of people that would go, well, if he's going, I'm going too. We don't know any names that have said that or taken them up on that, but the fact that it was brought up in the way that it was suggests that it's something that people would consider. Fightful also adds that another call away from the talent one featured production and staff. And in addition to talent and Anthem execs, there was also a call there too. It was reiterated to talent that they wanted to work in a lot more of the TNA talent into additional Anthem properties and make it seem like this was a crossover opportunity for the talent, because we've seen Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young working on other Anthem projects as well, sort of allowing the wrestlers to go and do non-wrestling endeavors with Anthem. And I think a big part of this is it seems as if overall, away from the buzzwords, there's a big push to grow the company.
Yeah, I mean, they still, again, own the company. They want to maximize its profitability, of course, and they want to be able to, maximize the popularity of the stars, of course. I just think it's going to be a very sort of worrying situation for very, diehard fans of TNA right now, because it's sort of up in the air in terms of, well, is everything going to keep going the way it has been? But I think ultimately, if Anthem are, wanting to have this mass cross appeal and really boost the popularity of TNA, then there's nothing stopping them doing it.
Nothing stopping them at all. This is obviously a story that we're going to find out more about as the days and the weeks go on, and we will keep you up to date on it at cultaholic.com. Our top story, our only story in this video, TNA in turmoil after the shock firing of Scott D'Amore, with possibly some releases to follow. We'll keep you updated at cultaholic.com.